I thought we were running to the end. Welcome to Before Floor, sorry, an extension of 5 on the Floor here at the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I apologize for cutting off my head. I was trying to find a place to do this. I'm down at FTX Arena, thanks to our sponsors, Biscayne Bay Brewing, of course, the official beer of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and of the Miami Marlins. You can get Biscayne Bay Brewing brew anywhere in South Florida, pretty much. BiscayneBayBrewing.com is the where to go, and that's a good place to go. Go to the /beer finder, and you will find it. But one place you can definitely find it if you're heading down to the arena. 100 level, 300 level. They have kiosks here. Okay, so go check it out. The Tropical Bay IPA is a primary seller there. They also got the Marlins Lager and all the other beers. So make sure you check them out. Again, it's Biscayne Bay Brewing, the official beer of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also check out the Biscayne Bay Brew Twitter account. Our guys Sean Rochester and Tony Schwartz are on there quite a bit, so make sure that you are checking that. Also, another sponsor, MarkBrownPA.com. That's where you want to go if you need an estate plan. Mark is the guy to handle it. Again, it's MARC. brownpa.com, right there in North Lauderdale. The right man with the right plan, really good dude. And look, they got great people in their office. They will help you. It's a small office. They will work with you individually, and they will design an estate plan that works for you. They'll go over all the paperwork. I know because I just did this with him, okay? So I can speak to it exactly. You want to make sure that whatever it is you have goes to the right people. Also, he's got a real estate title company right there in-house. So if you have real estate, he's the guy to go to. Not just for an estate plan, but also he can help you with your closing. Mention 5 Reasons, and he'll give you a special deal. To go to MARCBrownPA.com. And actually, I think I'm going to see Mark tonight. He's coming down to the game. All right, here's who we've got. Again, I'm Ethan Skolnick. We got Greg Sylvander. We got Brady Hawk, and we've got Ricky J. Mark. Jonathan Ramlicon may be joining us. We're not exactly sure at this point. What we do know is I just came from the court. Bam Adebayo is playing tonight. Eric Spoelstra pretty much indicated it in the pregame Zoom. But Bam, I saw him out on the court. He looked fine. He was joking around with everybody, sort of bumping with Malik Allen. So he's playing. Who else, Brady? Who's in, who's out?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Bam's the big one who Spoelstra has not said all week, even though with the reports from Woj, he was just kept saying that he was progressing, that type of stuff. And he said tonight that he'll warm up with the intention to play. The other guys, Kyle Lowry, is out for personal reasons, which is interesting because this was the big game. I think that Toronto fans specifically were looking forward to playing Lowry. So obviously he's out. Starting lineup-wise, I think we can all pretty much agree that I think Gabe Vincent's the starter. I don't think there's another guy to plug in with that hole. I think the only interesting thing with the starting lineup, and I'm sure we'll get into, is does Duncan Robinson enter back in with Bam Adebayo returning? Do they play the guy they've been sticking with, and Max Strus? That feels like the only decision they have to make because other than that, it feels like 4 guys that are pretty much a lock.
Greg, we did a big episode of 5 on the Floor about Bam's return. I recommend people check that out. We were on the Bahama Rican boys this morning. We talked about Duncan Robinson, but now we're sort of at the moment of truth. Does Eric Spoelstra roll the dice by putting Duncan back in the starting lineup and giving him this last long look like we have discussed? And then we'll get to Darius's comment there.
We're all on pins and needles, right? This is actually high drama. Is Duncan going to be reinserted? Because Spo came out and definitively said to the media Duncan Robinson is a starter and that just right now Max Strus is starting for creative reasons. So for shot creation reasons. So if we're taking Spo at his word, and Ethan, I know you generally trust Eric Spoelstra and have a great relationship with him, that means Duncan Robinson should be starting tonight because all the pieces are back in place.
You're putting me on the spot here, Greg. Liking Spo is not the same as necessarily trusting Spo.
That's true. That's true. Sorry. Here's the thing. Through 8 starts, Max Strus, 32 threes on almost 43% shooting. Check this out. No other active player made more than 28 threes through their first 8 career starts. Devontae Graham held that record from 18-19. What I'm saying is Max Strus has been balling. So if there was ever a reason why Spoelstra could come to the podium with a clear conscience and say, no, we're keeping Max Strus in the lineup, it's because, 1, he knows that that's Jimmy's homie, but 2, he's been playing really well and shooting really well. So he's also providing what Duncan would provide. But it would be a nice boost of confidence for Duncan Robinson to get a start next to his buddy Bam. Hopefully that helps with the offense. So I truthfully don't know which way this is going to go. Something tells me Max stays in the starting lineup. I don't know.
Ricky, not what would you, not what should. Okay, let me start over. Not what do you think Spoelstra would do, but if you were Eric Spoelstra tonight, what would you do? Who would be the starter?
Max Strus, without question. I think because look, The Toronto Raptors are a decent team right now, and I actually took the liberty of writing that. I went back and I saw how Duncan had been doing against the better teams in the league. I'll try to be quick. 2 for 8, 2 for 7, 5 for 17, 1 for 5, 4 for 8, 3 for 13, 2 for 11, 1 for 9, 0 for 7, 2 for 6, 1 for 7, 4 for 11. He was bought. He was paid to shoot, and he doesn't perform well against the better teams in this league. The numbers prove that. Never mind the fact that he may or may not have been shooting 40% from deep in the last few games and 23% in the fourth quarter. He doesn't perform well against the teams you need to get through to win a championship. This Heat team needs more, and Max Strus has been providing that. I start Max Strus.
It's hard to argue with those numbers. I mean, there was only one good number in there that you mentioned, and about 10 numbers that you rung off. And we see today, look, I mean, I know Chicago doesn't have Levine right now, obviously, and the Nets are going to be without Durant for a little while. You see how vulnerable the East is, really. I mean, there is an incredible opportunity for this team with Bam coming back, Jimmy back, the guys out of protocols, at least for now, and what you've gotten from these two-way guys. So I guess the question becomes, Brady, can you wait? Because here's the other element of this. You want the last 2-3 weeks of the regular season to be kind of where you have control of the situation, right? Like you know you're going to be a top 4 seed. You can kind of make a decision who you're going to play, how much you're going to play them, what kind of matchup you want. And so it's not as simple as saying, well, let Duncan just work through it, right? Like, I mean, you need wins now, right? So that you get rest later.
Yeah, I just think the biggest thing you touched on, I just don't think you can go 2 to 3 weeks until the end of the season. We're still having this conversation of which guy should start. Like you need to have a definitive rotation and starting lineup to go through. Like this isn't the Omer Yurtseven, Dwayne Dedmon stuff that they're going to figure out, probably starting tonight or moving forward if they have a healthy roster. Like this is a different type of beast because these are two guys that could potentially be in the rotation at the same time. Like I don't think it's crazy to say. But obviously, it's going to be tough with the way that these other guys are playing, like the Caleb Martins and so forth, if you look down the roster. So I do think they're going to have to figure it out. Personally, I agree with Greg and Ricky. I think Max probably does start tonight. Like I just feel like that's the way they go. But I do want to say, and I said this on the podcast last night, just because Max Strus starts, Duncan's probably going to see most of his minutes next to Bam. Like I don't think that's like a crazy thing to say. Like they're going to stagger them anyway without Kyle. So they're going to see each other. So we're going to get an idea of what it looks like and if he elevates in that way next to Bam because we're going to see it so much. But I am interested, and this is another thing I said last night, when he is on the floor and when he is playing next to Bam, there cannot be 3 possessions in a row where he's not touching the ball or where you kind of forget that he's on the floor. Like if he's on the floor with Bam, he needs to get shots up. Like 0 for 8 is, we're going to look at that. We're going to evaluate that. But that's the worst part to me is when you go through that time period and he's just not touching the ball. Like when Bam's on the floor, he's going to look for him. He has to get shots up, and then you go from there, and that's when you make the evaluations.
Well, there's that other part of this. I mean, you mentioned, Strus and Robinson play together. I apologize for the noise here. I thought something was going to crash into me from behind. But we haven't even discussed Oladipo in that context. And, I don't know where he's going to be from a physical standpoint, but I know what he can provide if he's healthy, or some of what he can provide. It feels like Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent are kind of holding down some of Oladipo's minutes now, but Caleb in particular may have put himself in a position where you don't want to take him out, which means that Oladipo's minutes may come out of one of the shooter types, even though that's not necessarily what Oladipo is, right, Greg? So it's a really tricky thing for Spo. Like it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to stagger this, right, and he's going to make sure, but you also have to kind of keep Duncan's confidence up. You can't lose the asset completely. It's like one of those good problems that could become a bad problem, I feel like.
No, that's a good way of describing it. And I think right now with Bam being back, now obviously Kyle's out, but the pieces are in place for Duncan to figure something out here. So I said it on the podcast that it was like his last shot at it, and I'm probably being a little over dramatic there. But I do think that if this continues into late February, they're going to make a call eventually, not to trade him or anything like that. That's not where I'm going, because when you mention Oladipo and all of the intricacies of him coming back, that's the trade deadline acquisition, folks. So just chill with the whole trade machine. Don't fire it up too much this year. I say that and watch Riley do something crazy. But ultimately, I think that Duncan's going to get this last shot to try to figure it out. They're going to be patient with him, but you're seeing them trim back the minutes more and more. And here's the other, like, the thing is, like, Caleb, you're right. Like, they're not going to pull him out of the way that they're trusting him.
Yeah.
I just don't see them completely shelving that. Oladipo would have to come back and be so good. And here's a random thought before I know Jonathan just ducked in, so I'd love for him to get his thoughts off too. If the Heat win tonight, are they in the 1 seed?
Well, yes and no, right? By percentage points, they're not, right? Like I'd have to look.
Yeah, the winning percentage, you're right. They may not eclipse 643, which is where Chicago is.
But you could
today.
Yeah, and Sixers lost, and you can see where this is trending, right? Like you can see the Nets are going to miss Durant for a long period of time here, right? Levine is out. Chicago doesn't seem to have another answer, right? Well, the other guy who's halfway in and halfway out, right? Like, and now there was some talk today, something that we've discussed a little bit, that Harden may not extend, and so there's some other drama there that is going to get out into the ether here. Jonathan, let's go to you, and we didn't have a chance to kind of talk a whole lot about this. I'll let you lead on this. What is a reasonable expectation, not for Bam going forward, we covered that on the podcast, but for Bam tonight?
I think you just want to see him fit in, right? You just want to see everything kind of be seamless. You want his screens and his handoffs to work well, right? Like Greg, mentioned, Duncan Robinson is going to have one more shot, and Bam is usually the guy to open him up. So it's going to be up to Bam to do that. From a scoring perspective, I still want to see him take those kind of little mid-range floaters that he's just so good at. I hope that, as he's been rehabbing that hand, that it's, it hasn't fallen off from him as well. I want to still see him take a couple of jumpers, and I want to see if the passing chops are still there as well, right? We've seen a lot of creation and playmaking, not only from PJ Tucker, but from Yurtseven as well, right? He's been passing really well. How much is Bam how much of a beat did Bam lose during this injury? So I want to see if that passing is crisp as well. I think the defense is going to be very easy, right, and very seamless. He can switch on to anybody, but I don't want him to switch on to everybody, right? I still want him to stay in the paint because we had issues when he would switch on too soon. We would have rebounding issues, so I want to make sure he stays in the paint as well.
Here's the other thing, and this point was made on Twitter. I don't know, Greg, why you and I didn't cover it last night. Before Bam hurt the hand, Bam had struggled for 2 or 3 weeks with a knee injury. Like, it was clear. And he wouldn't talk about it, but it was obvious. The rebounding numbers all came down over a 3-week period. He's now had, 7 weeks to heal that. So I want to see explosion. Like, to me, that's the thing tonight. I'm actually, Jonathan, I think you and I disagree on something because I don't want him to just fit in. Like, that's what concerns me long term, is that Bam's going to look at this situation and say, I could just fit in. Everything was going okay without me. They're not winning a championship with Bam fitting in. They're winning a championship if Bam elevates. Okay, and takes a different approach. But I think just on the interim, next couple of games, I want to see explosion. I want to see some dunks. I want to see him rebounding. I want to know that athletically he's back where he was. All right, let's get to tonight's matchup a little bit more specifically. We mentioned that Toronto is playing well. Masai knows how to pick them, and Nick Nurse knows how to coach them. Okay, so I anticipated this would be a plus 500 team this year once they got out of Tampa and they started to figure it out. Van Vliet, Brady is playing at a high level, but also, as is Siakam, they've got a lot of long athletes. Those are the kinds of teams, we saw it with Memphis, that give Miami trouble.
Yeah, and I think more specifically, those are the teams that give Tyler Hero trouble. Mm-hmm. And when you're talking about a game without Kyle Lowry, you're looking at this team that probably needs a little bit of scoring. I wouldn't be surprised looking at Prize Picks. I don't know if he's on there yet, but if Tyler Hero was, I might be going under on his points because he does get bothered by length, and I think that'll come with time. You'll find counters. He's found counters to a lot of coverages, but I think that's coming next. But it is a team with a lot of length. I think the good thing here is for Miami, Gabe Vincent starting. You look at any number, you look at any film, Gabe Vincent hounds guards, like full, baseline to baseline, he does it well. I think you see Fred VanVleet at least get slowed down a little bit. Like he's been hot, so it's hard to slow him down. But I think Gabe Vincent starting is a good thing in that direction. But obviously, you're not going to see a lot of lineups. We talk about, they've had to experiment with the Strus and Duncan a couple times, and that doesn't work. We've seen even Hero and Strus or Hero and Duncan for long stretches. I don't know if you can go to that for super long stretches because this is a team that has a lot of length and a lot of guys and a lot of defenders. And we talk about switchy guys with Bam back, but they're a good switchy team as well. So this is an intriguing matchup, and obviously they're getting close to healthy, obviously without Kyle Lowry. But this is an interesting matchup, just kind of seeing where they are.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like a Martin Vincent game here, a little bit more in terms of the type of athletes that you need. Ricky, I'll go to you. Who do you like tonight?
I like Miami, but with this caveat. If Bam Adebayo understands that he's not just coming here to start doing cardio, we already got a guy that we paid way too much over the summer to do that. Bam Adebayo needs to come in here and recapture what he was doing earlier in the season when he was getting like 25 and 13. Because here's the thing. His knee, like you mentioned, good chance it's probably already healed. His thumb, it's messed up. He's cleared to play, but guess what? He has another hand that I'm hoping he worked on while he was out. So at this point, he needs to go in there, be aggressive, because here's the thing. I can't think of a better team that makes it easy for their centers, their big men, their pivot people to flourish than Miami. Look at Omer. Look at Dwayne Dedman. These are guys that, based on the way the offense is constructed, they could mess around and get a 20-10 on people. Bam Adebayo is arguably more talented than both Dedman and Yurt-Seven combined. Go out there and prove it, because just because you're back after 7 weeks, yeah, we missed you. Now you're back. You have those expectations haven't gone down. I want dominant Bam. Otherwise, we're all wasting our time.
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, if you heard me on 5 on the Floor last night, that's where I think this thing's got to go. I also know that it got back to him, so that's a good thing.
You guys are being way too, it's too early for that stuff.
No, but it's not.
The first game back,
the first game back. Go ahead, Greg.
Hang tight.
Okay.
Do you think Eric Spoelstra would want this team to lose 3 or 4 games with him trying to integrate himself as Sean Kemp of this offense? Or would you want him to try to kind of slowly, gradually figure that out? I just think that there has to be a little bit of poise when we talk about this. He's not going to come out and be Shaquille O'Neal and get 30 and 15 every night when he gets back.
He doesn't have to.
Okay, so as long as we're making that expectation clear and what you want to see from him, I just think the statistical thing is a little tricky with him, because early on, to just expect him to come out and shoot 22 times, I just don't think that's how this is going to go.
Greg, I don't think that's what I don't think that's what either of us is saying. I don't think it's that it's taking 25 shots or anything along those lines. I just think it's a mindset. I think that we're gonna get a sense here early of whether or not Bam has been watching this and said, oh, these guys have been really good without me, and I'll just kind of find my way and do some dribble handoffs, or whether he's going to come in and say, kind of what Ricky's saying is, I'm better than Omer. I'm better than Dwayne. They both put up numbers when I wasn't in. If I'm aggressive, if I just get the ball and go, look at what I can accomplish in this offense. I'm not saying it's all going to happen tonight, but here's the thing, and I'll go to Jonathan on this and then get the picks and we close here. But I mean, he has dominated Siakam over time. So it's an interesting matchup because there were all the comparisons made between the two of them. But I feel like this is someone he's very comfortable playing against in recent history. And we know Toronto likes to size down again with a lot of length and a lot of athletes. So Jonathan, tonight, give me a pick for the game and give me a Bam stat line.
So I am going to take Miami. I still think, regardless that we lost Kyle, Toronto's been playing really well. They just beat the Bucks. I still think Miami's going to win. As far as Bam goes, I'm going to say he has 18 points. I'm going to give him 12 rebounds, and I think he has 5 assists and a block as well. I think they're going to make it easy for him. I think Jimmy's going to do a good job trying to really force the ball into him. He's just going to be like, hey, Bam, shoot it. And to your point as well, right? He's been dominating this matchup with Siakam, and that was before he really even put on all that extra weight, right? So now he's 15 pounds heavier. Now he's going to even dominate that matchup even more. So I think he gets into paint a little bit easier against that lengthy guy with that bigger, bulkier body, and he gets it. He has a good game.
All right, I'm going to pivot this, and then I want to get a prize picks from Greg, and we're going to get out of here. 18. What did you say? 18, 12, and 5? Is that where you were?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody going over or under those numbers tonight? Greg, 18, 12, and 5. Over or under?
Under.
Ricky?
Yeah, why not? I'll say over for the sake of balance.
Brady?
I do think it's under, but I do want to say one thing that we're talking a lot about Bam and we're talking about his stat line. I think the guy that we're going to be looking at his stat line after the game is Jimmy.
Jimmy, yeah. We haven't talked about him at all. He was awful tonight.
And we always talk about that on these shows where he comes back. Like the first game he came back, he played really well. Yeah. I think that was the worst shooting mark of his career, 1 for 11 percentage-wise.
Yes, it was.
I'd expect Jimmy to come back, scoring-wise, and I think he has a big 25-plus point game.
Yeah, he may not feed Bam as much tonight because he was brutal the other night. He just was. I mean, we got on Duncan, we got on Kyle a little bit. We didn't get on him enough. All right, Greg, I know you're picking. Give me a prize pick tonight.
One thing to watch for the game, the Raptors lead the league in offensive rebounds, 13.6 a game. Watch for them and how they defend the boards with no Yurt out there. What are the Heat going to do? Anyway, prize picks, Jimmy, 20.5 points, go over. PJ Tucker, 7.5 points. Even though Bam is back, go over. And I'll slide you one that's not on the Heat. Anthony Simons from the Portland Trailblazers, over 5.5 assists, done it 5 out of 5 games. There's your prize picks. Use code 5 to double your initial deposit.
All right, and Wednesday, when Simons is here, whatever the point total is, go over. It feels like he'll go off for 35 against the Heat. PrizePicks.com, use the code 5, get your initial deposit match. That's the official fantasy partner, 5 Reasons Sports Network. Check out all the content on the channel. We had a lot today, including a bunch of Panthers content, too. So make sure you're checking that out. The best team in the NHL plays in South Florida. In addition, so there you go. And then we got Bahama Rican Boys was up this morning. Much more of that coming on the channel. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Pace and Space at halftime. Post up 5R. It's Royals' birthday today. Forget about the fact that it's Dwayne's birthday and Muhammad Ali's birthday. It's Royals' birthday today. So make sure that you check that out.
Betty
Post
White,
up
too.
5R. Yeah, and five on the floor, as well as my daughter's half birthday, which trumps all of it. Have a good night, everybody.
What a